I had an older sister, and we got along good. I had a middle sister that was a pain in the you-know-where. And I can't imagine why that she didn't like me. Because when she would make her mud pies, and I just walked through them, I can't imagine why that disturbed her. Because just a little guy walking through the mud pies shouldn't bother anything, should it? But I could outrun her, so that's why I survived.
So what did your parents do? Did your parents work?
My parents were farmers, and we lived on a ranch. We raised cows. I learned to ride a horse very young, and I had 2 horses. One, I called her Babe. She was my racing horse. I had another horse. His name was Danny, and Danny was my cowboy horse. And of course, when I was young, I thought I was the greatest, you know. I could throw a rope, I could catch a calf, I could do anything, I thought. But I found out I was misled. But then, when we had a little bit of a race to go on, I would run my racing horse, and that was Babe. And I could outrun any horse in the country. And do you know what our goal was? We lived 5 miles from town, and whoever could get to town first, the rest would have to buy him a shake at the drugstore. And we had a little old guy that would make malts, and he'd handshake them like this. We just loved to go ahead and make him just keep shaking and shaking and shaking, which was kind of ornery, but we were kids.
So how much would one of those malts cost?
A nickel.
I'm not sure you could buy anything with a nickel today.
No. Well, eggs were 5 cents a dozen. And meat at the store was probably 12 to 15 cents a pound at the most.
So did you grow stuff on your ranch, or did you buy things from the store?
We had a big garden. My mom had a big garden, and we had a pyramid to have the strawberries in. And we found out that everybody, before they would come to our house, would go ahead and go check the strawberry mound and have a strawberry before they'd come to the door.
Well,
they just enjoyed our strawberries.
Yeah, I bet.
But we grew a massive garden.
Okay. So what was it that probably helped during the Great Depression, right? Because you grew up during that time period.
Yes.
So what was that like? Could you tell that you were living in a depression, or was that just life for you? Nobody
had any money. Everybody lived on whatever they could produce or help. And everybody was everybody's neighbor. And that's something we have lost today, is the fact of we do not help each other. We're more isolated, and we need to learn that togetherness is a secret. But I value all my friends and everything. I have had a beautiful time here in West Virginia with the new friends and seeing all of the things that are available here in West Virginia.
Had you ever been here before?
I was here a year ago.
Okay.
I was able to come. We're a part of Camp Royal.
Right.
And so, do y'all know what Camp Royal is?
Yes, sir.
It's a what?
They just said yes.
Okay. Does anybody, why don't you explain what Camp Royal is?
I think most all of them know.
Okay. If they were here yesterday, they had Camp Royal here on the grounds to help celebrate this wonderful day yesterday. So,
They do some pretty amazing stuff at Camp Royal.
yes,
I would not be one of those to get on the scooters or the ramps. That is not for me.
wouldn't that be a great thing?
It would. It would be a sight.
To make a somersault or a 180-degree turn while you're midair?
That would be amazing.
And yes, yeah. Well, getting back to my growing up days, we rode a school bus, and we had a cow that she was a pet, an obnoxious pet, and we milked cows. We milked 4 or 5 cows. But when I would get off the school bus, I would ride the cow home because I was too lazy to walk. And so I was always figuring out ingenious things to create a new way of doing things.
I mean, my dad always said to work smarter, not harder, and I think
That's exactly what my purpose was. Smarter, not harder.
Okay, so I have just a list of events that I just went through, just the top things that have happened during your lifetime, and I'll just bring up a topic, and if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it, or if you remember anything, you can just share all of your wisdom.
Very good.
So, we talked about the Great Depression a little bit, and so FDR was a president during your lifetime, and he came up with all the New Deal programs, and he did his fireside chats to talk about, you know, just the country, save the country. Do you know anything about that?
Yes. The Great Depression was also the Dust Bowl days when we didn't have any rain and the wind blew and there was no crops that were available to grow.
Okay.
And dirt, if you were in the house, the dirt was blowing so bad that they put sheets over the windows and you wore a sheet over your face so you could breathe.
Oh, wow.
So, but the dirt was very bad, and that was during when FDR was coming in as president.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta share this with you.
Okay.
In the first grade, I met a little girl. Her name was Lucinda, and she and I, we really hit it off. So we decided to get married at 6 years old. What do you think of that?
When it's love, it's love, right?
So, but then things started getting a little bit better, and as years went by, it got better until my sister, the first one, graduated in 1938.
Okay.
And then I graduated in 1944.
All right. That was a very volatile time with World War II.
Oh, yes.
What was that like? What was it like to grow up during World War II with Hitler in power, and just, were you afraid?
Yes. Because he was going to conquer the world. Excuse me. And the word was out that he was going to have all of Europe under his command. And so then is when they started. And when they bombed Pearl Harbor in 1941 is when everything changed. and everything started going toward supporting the war effort.
Okay.
And every time there has been a war, it has been started by the Liberal Party. If you look back at history, they have created it to evidently to try for new products. It's like Korea and Vietnam. They were not wars, but they were trials for new weapons and new ways of what do you call, having a war, what wasn't a war.
Like a Cold War?
Yes.
Okay.
And and like with Korea, Korea was a place to salvage a country from communism.
Right. Now, you served in Korea.
Yes,
What branch of the military were you in?
I was in the Army.
Now, did you willfully sign up? Were you drafted?
I was drafted.
Wow. How did you feel about that?
I didn't like it because I had planned a whole bunch of things what I would be doing.
What were some of those things?
I was going to go to Northwestern to electric school,
Mm-hmm.
and I was going to become an electrical engineer.
Wow.
And that was all terminated because of what was happening in life.
Did any of your friends get drafted as well?
Yes, a lot of my relatives got drafted. Some of them came back, and some of them didn't make it.
So where were you? Would you like to share anything about your time with that? I don't want to cross any boundaries. You just share what you want to share.
Oh, you mean in Korea?
Sure.
Oh, Korea was kind of a little bit of a magic place. It was, the day that I landed over there, the most famous word in the Army is hurry up and wait. And your clothes, everything you own is in a duffel bag. Everybody know what a duffel bag is? Okay? So you had a duffel bag. They gave us an M1 to carry, but no bullets. So they dropped us off out in the middle of the night in a very ravaged area that had been burned out, but they mistook my orders, and I was not supposed to go there. So then the next day, they took me down to Yeongdong-po, down by Seoul, and I was on an airstrip. We guarded the airfield. So that's was my purpose of being over there. And we had guns and half tracks. And a half track is a wheels on front and a track on the back of the same thing. And we had only one 50 caliber machine gun on the half track. But all of our units, we had 2 platoons. There were the 1st and 2nd platoon, and we had half tracks and tanks in those. And they were equipped with 40 millimeter, 240 millimeter cannons, and quad 50s. And the quad 50s were alternated, and we were within 5 miles of the airstrip where all the stuff was. I was fortunate that I got stationed at battery headquarters. So I was in communication, and so we did all the communicating, the giving orders, and every 6 hours a new password was given there, So for people to go here and there, you had to have the password or you would get shot probably. Because nobody would recognize who you were unless you gave the password. But, well, I don't know where I was headed.
You were just sharing just some of your experiences
Oh.
over there.
So, anyhow, when I got put down on Yeongdongpo was a little town, a little Korean town, and it was outside of Seoul about 8-10 miles, maybe less, and Seoul was the capital of Korea at that time. And the communists had come through part of that and had devastated it. They had burned what they didn't destroy with bombing and everything. So it was a very poor area. And one of the things that was very impressive to me was the people and the way they lived. And when normally you take your clothes and put it in a wash machine, they would go down to the river and take a stick and beat the dirt out of their clothes. But they never had any wash machines. Another thing that was very impressive to me over there was the way a lot of them heated their houses. And their houses maybe were 12 feet long. They would have a stove that they could burn firewood in at the one end. Then they had a pipe on the floor that went over, and the chimney came up on the outside wall. And that was how they heated their houses. And they had no electricity at that time over there. So I was impressed. And the women would have a pot and they would carry water, fresh water, from a well or something to their houses.
So tell them how you got around over there, how you bartered.
Oh, the Uncle Sam in the Army gave us a allotment. They gave us a carton of cigarettes and 6 cans of beer every month. And so I didn't drink or smoke, so I used my things to find information around, because I wasn't just at K-16 all the time. I was going to the gun squads and checking the communication, the radios, the telephone system, because we had a system where every 3 hours we had to check in with a group called, I can't think of the name of it. Anyhow, it was an agency that was over our operation of command. And then 10th group was over in Seoul. And so we'd have to check in the password, and the password would never come out as a password. It was always decoded. And then we had to decode it so we knew what the next password was going to be. So that was an interesting challenge. Another thing that was really impressive to me was we were having a alarm that radar had picked up some unidentified object, what we called the hump of the Han, which was about 60 or 80 miles away. And we couldn't figure out what it was. And it was going 35 miles an hour. And they finally put searchlights on the airstrip, and it was a flock of geese. And everybody was alarmed that we were being attacked by some foreign object, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we thought that was pretty funny afterwards, but at the time it was a very tense time.
Yeah. So how long were you there? How long did you serve?
I was in the Army 1 year, 11 months, 25 days, and 4 hours.
Wow, that's very exact. Did you get out as soon as you were able to?
Yes, because I hated the Army because you were so restricted. Everything, the first sergeant, whatever the first sergeant said, you did. And when they wanted us to line up for inspection in Korea with polished shoes, you can imagine going out here and walking down these mountain trails with polished shoes. So that was one of the things we faced.
So what did you do after you got out?
Started looking for some way to get back into society.
Was that hard?
Yes. Now, the money that we had over there was not green backs or regular money like what we have here.
Uh-huh.
It was script.
Okay.
And I heard that that's what the coal mines used to do here,
Yeah.
that they had script.
That is true.
And you could only spend it at certain places.
Mm-hmm.
So I would send my script home, and then it would be cashed at home, and then they would in return would send me greenbacks, and then I would travel around, and greenbacks were worth about 40,000 to 1.
Okay.
And a won was a what do you call it, a money measure over there.
Okay.
It was a paper bill. It was about 10 inches long and about 4 inches wide. And what they were clever enough over there that if you would deal with somebody, they would go ahead and they would fold them back. And then instead of having so many in your hand, they would have them folded back, and they would count the one as 2.
Oh.
Can you describe what that would be?
Well, you're not getting all your money.
You'd get a part of what you would deserve.
Yeah.
And so I adopted a little houseboy over there, and he would go ahead and I would take him along, and he would do all of my money counting. And many times he would get in a violent argument because they were trying to cheat us. So it was just nice to have somebody on my side.
Yeah. I
Hey,
bet.
Dad,
Yeah.
tell them about the ship and leaving San Francisco and how you survived the ship.
Oh. When we left San Francisco and we started sailing out under the Golden Gate Bridge, and the bridge got littler and littler and littler and littler, and the next day everybody was sick from not being able to, well, what do you call it? They weren't used to sailing on the water. And excuse me for saying this, but they were vomiting all over everything. And I didn't like that. So I said, some of the crew, what can I do we had 5,000 people on the boat. And I asked, what can I do to not have to go through all the standing in lines and doing that kind of things? And one of the ship's crew said, well, you can drag mops. So I got to sit on the back of the boat and drag mops. And you'd be surprised at how long you can drag a mop before it gets clean. Sometimes you could work it that you could do one mop and it could take 2 or 3 hours just to keep you from getting back amongst all the rest of the people. And so that job got done, and they said, "You still want another job?" And I said, "Yeah." So they gave me a job down by the kitchen in dry stores. And so I got to go ahead and be down there. I got an early chow pass. I could go up and eat ahead of everybody else with the officers. And I could have leisure to serve the spices and the flour and all of the things what the cooks needed out of dry stores so that they could cook the meals for the ship.
Well, it sounds like your ingenuity from your childhood paid off right there then. So that way you got out of being with all the sick people.
Yes. And the other thing I did was I took a high bunk. There were 5 high, and they were like a hammock spread out. And I took the high one so that nobody could erp on me.
Well, that's pretty smart. That's good. Well, anything else you want to share about that time period in your life? Did you get married afterward? Why was life difficult? What did you do?
Let me say a couple of little things about Korea again first.
Okay.
And that was the people over there were very genuine, and there were a lot of people that spoke English. There were a lot of people that didn't. And the old Papazans, their seniority was measured by the length of their pipe. And they would have, some of them would have a little pipe 6 inches long, and some of them would have one that would be 4 feet long. And one of the greatest joys that I had over there was to meet up with an old Papazan, and I would take I called them GI cigarettes because that comes out of a pack. And I would peel it and put it in this Papazan's bowl of his pipe and light it for him. And most generally, they wouldn't have very many teeth in front. And so he'd have 1 or 2 teeth, and you'd get the biggest smile of anything that you could ever imagine, because he got a smoke. He didn't like Korean tobacco, but he loved GI tobacco. And so that was one of the ways that I got around over there. One of the other ways was when we would go out searching for snipers, which the snipers would try to pick off our crews, was I bought little candy bars, little bite-sized, like what we get here. And the kids called me Pop over there. Wait a minute, I'm getting ahead of my story. They called me Heidi over there at first. And then we would go around with a Jeep to see if we could find out where our enemy was. And I would have these candy bars, and all the little kids, 5 and 6 years old, found out that I had candy bars, and we could get a tremendous source of information from the little kids, because they would tell us everything that was going on. So it was a beautiful way of getting information. And I bought a lot of little candy bars.
Okay. That's funny. Kids are like that today. They'll still tell you anything. And sometimes you don't even have to give them candy, you just have to ask.
Yes.
So anything else you want to share while you were over there? Did you travel around? I know sometimes when you're in the military, you get to go out and sightsee and do things like that.
Well, we had the two divisions. We had 1 and 2, and we would go to them every day and check communication. And one of the things that they did over there was when we would have our telephone lines on the ground, they would come and stick a pin in and short our lines, so we would have to alternate and make another way of communication. And so it was a challenge to keep everybody so everybody could work together.
Yeah, I bet.
So, is that what you want me to say, Randy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there anything else I should ask or anything else?
I think that covered a lot of what his notes were.
So what happened when you came back? What did you do? Did you ever become an engineer like you wanted to?
No, my scholarship was gone. It was eliminated when I didn't take it immediately. And so then I didn't know what the future was going to bring. And so my girlfriend and I, we got back together. She wanted to get married before I went to the service. And I said I was not going to leave a military bride. Mm-hmm. And if I got killed over there, I didn't want her to be in that position and stuff.
Right.
So we got together, and we got married, and we started milking some cows. So we got to milking, we had 50 cows, and we had a bulk tank. We had it in bulk, and we had a dairy, and I brought the butterfat level from 3.1 to 3.9 in 4 years, because I used artificial insemination cows from Ohio.
Oh, okay. I've never really been around a dairy farm.
Okay.
Don't really know. So you got married, you had some kids.
Yeah. Had a little girl, her name is Judy. Had another son, Larry, and then we had Randy. And so we couldn't get along with my in-laws because milking cows is twice a day, it's 24/7, you don't have a chance. And I told my father-in-law, I said, either I have to have a hired man to help me, or we're gonna sell out. So we sold out. And the day before the sale, he said, I've decided let's expand. Well, it's too late then. So we sold out and we moved away, and we had a chance to buy a quarter section of land, which is 160 acres.
Okay.
And then we built a house in the corner of a wheat field. We built the house ourselves. And we just decided that we were capable. All you do is put your heart in it and you go for it. And that's what I would suggest everybody. Put your heart in things and go for it. There's a great big world out there, and you can really make an impact on the world.
That is good advice.
So, I want to tell them a little bit more about my life.
Go for it.
Jesus Christ is my best friend. And I was born again in 1972. And it was one of the best, joyful times. Everything has been better since I was born again and had Jesus as my guideline. And so I do a lot of praying, and it's been wonderful to have God on my side, and that I can go ahead and I can enjoy the fellowships that I can have by daily communicating and serving my Lord. So that's just a suggestion that I have.
Well, that's a good one.
Tell him when you were baptized.
Oh,
He was just a kid.
when I was a little kid, I was sprinkled. My folks didn't believe in immersing. And so I was sprinkled, and when I was 90 years old, I decided that I wanted to be immersed. So they brought a horse tank in, and a horse tank is about 10 feet long, about 2 foot wide, about 2 foot deep. They filled it with water because we didn't have living water around, and they baptized me. They dunked me in there, and one of the guys that was there said, "We won't hold you under over 3 minutes." So, yes,
How old were you when that happened, Dad?
I was 90.
Did you ever think that you would be 90 years old and getting baptized like that?
I had no idea that when I was 30 or 40, I hadn't even thought about it. And then when I got to be 60 and 70, then everything was changing because we had a dirt business where when we moved and got up there and built on the quarter, then everything changed because we needed a backhoe to dig our ditches for our water lines.
Yeah.
Nobody was available. So I looked around and I found a used one, and we went over, and I didn't know that from beans from buttons. And I looked at this backhoe and I said, "How do you work that?" And he said, "Well, you get up on the seat and you push that lever and it'll do this, and you push that lever and it'll do that." And so he said, "If you want to try it out, go ahead." So I spent a couple of hours playing with the backhoe, and we ended up buying it and went home and dug our ditches.
Wow.
So then there was a lot more money in helping other people by digging ditches and things than it was to farm. So then is when I started in the dirt business.
Okay.
And then we did dirt business. We were listed as Heidemann Construction. And we did jobs as far north as Fort Collins and as far south as Trinidad, which was about 300 miles.
Okay.
So we did that all in between there.
That's a big area.
We did. But we had a phrase that we always used. Nothing is impossible. It just takes a little longer.
I like that. You can put that on a t-shirt.
That would be a good idea. Why don't you, as a school here, why don't you go ahead and do that on t-shirts?
All right, I'll get you a t-shirt made with that put on it. How about that?
Oh, that would be wonderful.
All right. Now
Yeah.
you remember that. All right, Peyton, you're on. All right, so it's all we're about ready to wrap up. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any pearls of wisdom for them, or anything else that just sticks out from your life?
Was there anything, Randy, that I had written down?
You had already said your main point about today is.
Oh, About
You
a
wanna have it
number?
tomorrow? No, you wanna do that? If you want to, that's fine. Well, if you wanted to just give away your things, that's fine.
Sam,
You weren't gonna do the number.
the kids asking.
Okay,
It would be okay if they had any questions, they could ask you some questions.
yes, I would be that would help.
Okay, does anybody have any questions they would like to ask? Okay, yes, Gloria. Okay.
Some of the kids want his name again for their notes.
Don't even think that's what his name was.
Okay.
So you said that you were saved in 1982. Could you just like tell us more about that? Like what led you there? That was like crazy
I
time.
can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So you said that you had been saved in 1982. Could you just tell us that experience and what led you there?
We were out with some friends, and we were coming home, and we came into the house, and the man's name was Chuck, and the man said, "Have you ever been saved?" And I said, "Oh, I guess, I don't know." I said, "I believe in Jesus." He said, "Okay, we're going to save you right now." So then I said, "I want to be saved." So that was when I was saved, was at that time. And it was such a wonderful feeling to know that I was eligible to go to God's house. And to know that the blood on the cross was there to help me as an individual. That Jesus died for me to take away my sins, that I would be qualified to go to heaven. And I've lived that for ever since then. It's been a glorious ride. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Right. Anybody else? Yes. They would like to know what your name is. I was a bad teacher. I did not even introduce you. I'm very sorry.
Oh, my name is Everett Heidemann, and the Heidemans are one of the big factors of Camp Royal down here at Glen Jean. Have any of you ever been down to Camp Royal?
We actually did a surf project there last year. We took the whole high school down,
Oh, good.
and we did some cleaning and digging and all kinds of stuff.
And then they had the exhibition yesterday of the jumps.
They did, yes.
Yes.
I'm going to spell your name for them because they have to take notes. So you guys ready? Everett. And you better already know how to spell Heidemann. Ah.
All right, anybody else? Any other questions? Well,
He has his
Oh, okay.
prize.
I just want to thank you for coming, first of all, and then you are more than welcome to give them your treat.
Okay.
So thank you so very much for coming. I've enjoyed talking with you, and I've learned so much, and I'm just really grateful for you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for letting me come, because I'm so unqualified as a speaker. I just speak my heart.
Well, that's okay.
So, with your help, we made it.
We did it.
And thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you.
So,
So one of the things he's known for and has been known for years is that when he meets somebody, he gives them a Tootsie Pop. That's just who he is. So he wanted to give you guys Tootsie Pops.
Okay. So
nobody here wants a Tootsie Pop.
I think they all would like it.
Elijah does, because I made him wait.
That means that they don't, I get all the Tootsie
I
Pops.
think you get to take them home.
All right, you and me will split them.
All
How's
right,
that for
that
you?
sounds good.
All right. How can we do this?
Well, I can have them come up to you if that's okay, and we can just make a line.
All
Is that
right.
all right?